Randall Wallace is the award-winning screenwriter of such epic movies as Braveheart, Pearl Harbor, and Secretariat. He's also the screenwriter, director, and producer for the upcoming feature film Heaven is for Real. The movie, based on the best-selling book, is the true story of the near-death experience of 4-year-old Colton Burpo. It opens in theaters April 16th.
Please welcome back to the 700 Club, a great producer. The producer, by the way, of the film that I think is the best I've ever seen, called Braveheart. It was about a guy named Wallace. Is he a relative of yours?
I am absolutely convinced that he is one of my ancestors.
Well, us Scots have to stand together. So.
We do.
But what got you into this thing about this Burpo situation?
Braveheart, I wrote, every man dies, not every man really lives. And that phrase resonated with a lot of people. Heaven is for Real went on to ask the further question, everybody dies, what then?
Yes. That story has captivated people. I mean, my goodness, the book has been a runaway, 10 million copies sold, New York Times bestseller for week after week. What do you think this movie's going to do?
I think people are going to be amazed by the movie. It touches your heart, first of all, and it gives you an experience of heaven.
Yeah.
I mean, here's a boy who can tell you, okay, this is what my experience was. This is what heaven feels like. And that's what we wanted to give the audience, an experience of being in heaven. One of the biggest revelations for me about how to approach this was the Lord's Prayer, on earth as it is in heaven.
Yeah. Well, he said he ran into a little girl. You had the little girl grown up, but she was just a couple months in his mother's womb. I mean, she was a 2-month-old fetus when she died.
Yes. You know, I was inspired in some part by what C.S. Lewis said, that everyone who goes to heaven will be surprised.
Yeah.
And that in God, there is no time. God is beyond time. So what happens in heaven is in the hands of God, is God's mystery. In fact, it's really interesting. We had a screening of this movie for just some of my friends in Malibu, California. And Mel Gibson came. He's a friend of mine, a guy I love and believe in. And I asked him afterwards what his experience was, and without wanting to share private matters, but he said, well, first of all, you just squeeze some tears out of me. And that was a big thing, to squeeze some tears out of him. But he said, you know, he grew up in the Catholic tradition. I grew up a Baptist. And we all have different understandings about what is necessary to go to heaven. And we were talking about that, the differences. And he said, well, the truth is, God made the rules. God can do anything God wants. And I thought that was a beautiful way to say it.
Well, I tell you, the Braveheart was a fantastic movie, and his passion, he screened that passion for us, extraordinarily successful. Mel's gone through a rough patch. Are you going to get him back and redeemed, or whatever you got to do to him? He's sort of been the dark side in Hollywood.
Well, Mel's a genius, and a man of tremendous heart. And he's always been there for everyone else who has had any kind of difficulty. He's been the first one to reach out to them and help them without any of that being known or celebrated. I really think we're going to see some great things from him in the future.
Well, I would certainly hope so, because I reached out to him after some of that stuff took place, and let him know we were praying for him. And he's just a nice guy, and I don't understand what happened. How do you get along in Hollywood? I mean, there's a rather secular culture out there, and you're raised as a Baptist writing about heaven. How do you make it in that environment?
Well, I'll tell you what I find, Pat, is that what Jesus said about the 2 great commandments, love God and love your neighbor,
yes,
is so meaningful to me in everywhere I go, that what people worship tells you everything about the direction of their lives. And I would say that in places like New York, money is God. If you've got money, no matter how you got it, people treat you like you're successful.
That's
in
right.
Hollywood, the idolatry is about celebrity. It's about fame. Both those ways are ways to lose your soul.
Well, they certainly are.
God is God, and I try to remember that, and my need to remember that is as great as anyone's is. And I find that the hunger for that truth is there with everybody. When Heaven is for Real came along, I had a chance to do something that I'd never even imagined doing. The book was amazing to me because of the Burpos. I know you've met the Burpos, and their story was just so believable because it surprised them. You know, if somebody's making up a story that they're trying to convince somebody else of, they have an agenda. But they had a tale that amazed them. When your 4-year-old starts to tell you what heaven's like and you don't expect that, then that started to be extremely believable to me and gripping.
Well, it was without question, and it's been successful. Well, I commend you on the work you've done, and I pray that the Lord will give you many more times of triumph, and along the way, bring Mel Gibson back into the fold, and I think that'll be something else. God bless you. Thank you for being with me.
Thank you. Good
Appreciate it.
Brother.